Complaint: the rear end door on the Sprinter no longer closes properly. The door must be readjusted. Step 1. Remove the lock strikers. Remove the 2 lock strikers with guide pins at the top and bottom. Otherwise, these 4 lock strikers force the door into the wrong position when adjusting. This would prevent proper adjustment of the rear end door. The lock strikers with guide pins at the bottom have plastic covers. Remove the covers and remove all the lock strikers. Now we can start to adjust the rear end door. Note: adjust the left door first. This door wing is shut first when the doors are closed, and the setting of the other door wing depends on it. Step 2. Adjust the depth of the rear end door. To properly adjust the depth of the rear end door, first slacken the hinge bolts on the door. The door can now be moved back and forth. This determines how deep the door is positioned in the vehicle. The door can also be adjusted back and forth at the top hinge. Now check the depth of the door. Is the door flush with the body skin? The rubber seal on the body should not be crushed. Retighten the hinge bolts at the top and bottom of the door. Use the feeler gauge special tool to ascertain whether the door is flush with the body. Make sure that the depth is uniform and that the door swings properly. If the depth is correct, the hinge bolts at the top and bottom can be retightened to a torque of 23 Newton meters. For optimum rain protection, the door should touch the rubber seal on the body at the top. At the bottom, it protrudes slightly so that the door is always properly sealed at the top when closed. Step 3. Adjust the door, lateral position, and height. Slacken the hinge bolts on the D-pillar of the body. Only unscrew the appropriate bolts enough so that the door can be adjusted but cannot move by itself. The door can now be moved up and down and left and right in the same way. Reposition the door correctly, then retighten the hinge bolts on the D-pillar of the body. All the bolts must be tightened to a torque of 23 Newton meters. Step 4. Adjust the door lock up and down. Reinstall the 2 lock strikers with guide pins on the left side at the top and bottom. slacken the bolts for the door locks at the top and bottom of the door. Close the door. When the door is properly aligned, flush with the roof, retighten the lock striker with guide pin and the bolts for the door lock. Then, set the door flush at the bottom and tighten the bolts. Tighten the 2 bolts on the lock striker with guide pin to 20 Newton meters and the door lock bolts to 10 Newton meters. Step 5. Adjust the door wing on the right side. First, remove the lock striker of the middle door lock. Otherwise, the other door wing cannot be adjusted properly. Adjust the door on the right-hand side in the same way as on the left-hand side, then reinstall the middle door lock. Step 6. Adjust the middle door lock. Close both rear-end doors. The lock striker must engage in the center of the lock without the door being lifted up or pulled down. The lock striker is correctly set. Now tighten the 2 bolts on the lock striker to a torque of 8 Newton meters. Also, check the 2 spring elements on each door wing. The spring element must give to cushion the motion of the closing door if necessary and prevent noises while driving. Step 7. Check the gap dimensions. Use the feeler gauge to check whether the rear-end door is properly adjusted. The gap from door to body shell should be approximately 5.5 millimeter. The gap in the middle between the doors should be approximately 6 millimeter, with a tolerance of plus or minus 1 millimeter. The gap between the doors and the bumper should measure 10 millimeter. The rear-end door is properly adjusted and the Sprinter is ready for service again.